Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. 9:09? Jeez, we're getting in here late. What happened, Mac?
Got to talk to Dan Mandis about that one.
All right, moving on.
All righty then.
It is Thursday. Another day closer to the weekend, as Matt Murphy affectionately says, Friday Eve.
Friday Eve.
He loves that.
He loves it. So make sure you super text that in, noon to 3.
Yeah, noon to 3. You should get in all of your Friday Eve texts. Matt loves it.
Really brightens up his day.
It's like...
And that's what we want to do.
He spreads joy. We should spread joy, too.
Exactly.
We love Matt. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. It seems like the Republican Party has been letting us down a lot. It does. You can go down the list. The spending bill passed with Democrats, pretty weak. I don't know what else Mike Johnson could have done. I don't know what else anybody could have done, but it's weak, and it doesn't seem like anybody's taking the fact that we're $33 trillion in debt serious. We could talk about another disappointment, like the Mayorkas impeachment failing. That was weak, and I don't think impeaching Mayorkas would have made much of a difference because it's the policies of Joe Biden at the border that are really creating the chaos. But it could have sent a message, maybe. I think it sends more of a message seeing the Republicans that voted against impeaching Mayorkas. Usual suspects: Ken Buck, Patrick McHenry, Rhinos, Eye Patch McCain, Dan Crenshaw, stuff like that. But it seems like the only enjoyment that we've been getting out of the Republican Party the last few days has been all entertainment, WWF style. Whether it's Senator Mullen out of Oklahoma challenging the Teamsters president to an actual fist fight before Bernie Sanders ruined our fun, or if it's James Comer calling a Democrat a Smurf and telling him that he's full of BS, or what was the other fight? Oh, yeah, our very own Tim Burchett and Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin being like, I didn't do anything. It seems like that's our only enjoyment lately. And now we have a new heavyweight title fight in the Republican Party. This time it's Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro. I love it. I am here for it. I'll be honest with you. One of the things about Candace Owens that I love is that she speaks her mind and doesn't give a damn what you think about it. And I credit to her. And also, I haven't met Candace Owens. I know a lot of people that have, and they have. Everybody that I know that's met Candace Owens has something nice to say about her. Nobody ever says anything mean about Candace Owens. And in some of the circles that I've worked in, somebody always has something to say about somebody. So it's very rare to have a person like Candace where, honestly, I know easily, I don't know, 30, 40 people that have met her, and not one person has ever said anything mean about her. She's pregnant. She's going and touring colleges right now. We've seen the memes coming out of the Live Free tour with Turning Point USA, and she just does good work. She's honest. She's true to herself, and I like Candace a lot. Somebody that doesn't like Candace speaking her mind, though, has been Ben Shapiro. And Ben Shapiro has been butting heads with Candace Owens for years. It feels like. Ben Shapiro was very pro-vaccine. You were an idiot if you didn't get it. Candace Owens was very anti-vaccine. And we can all figure out who was right in that situation. Ben Shapiro thought the election of 2020 was on the up and up. Candace Owens did not. Make your own conclusions about who's right there. Ukraine, Russia, and now the latest is Israel and Hamas. When I first started talking about Israel and Hamas, one of the things I said is it certainly feels like people are pounding the drum for genocide, and on both sides, and it feels like the war drums are beaten, and I didn't want to go to another forever war. It already seems like this thing is going to be stretching out for a very long time, and I feel like we have a lot of problems in our country that we need to handle first before we involve ourselves in another situation in the Middle East. And I know that not everybody agrees with me, and that's totally okay, because the Republican Party shouldn't be a party of groupthink. The Republican Party should be a party of ideas and discussion. I think the Republican Party also shouldn't be a party of warmongers, but I guess that's a longer discussion for a different day. But, when you disagree, that's totally cool. Let's disagree. Let's chop it up. Let's have the conversation. And I know that there are people that don't agree with me, but I don't blast them when they're not around. I encourage the conversation. Now, obviously, Ben Shapiro disagrees with Candace Owens. Personally, I think Ben is really emotionally invested in the Israel-Hamas conflict, and I'm not saying that's a wrong thing. I don't think that he's out of line for being emotionally invested, but he is, and I think you need to take that into account. Candace Owens has been coming at the Israel-Hamas, Gaza bombing stuff, terrorist attack from a very clear facts perspective and not wanting to cheer on war. Ben Shapiro doesn't like that. Ben Shapiro cannot believe that she would say something so anti-Semitic. Yeah, he didn't exactly say that, but you know what I'm getting at. It's like you're in trouble for wrongthink. And Ben apparently called out Candace Owens for her Israel take at a private event when she wasn't around to defend herself. And he doesn't call out things that she said that's wrong. He calls out the fact that it's just disgraceful. How could she? And again, not going after any of the points that she's made, not addressing any of the arguments. He went after her personally and said what she's doing is disgraceful, with nothing to support it. At least not in this short video clip that's circulating. Maybe after the phone stopped rolling, there was more in-depth discussion about it. Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the clip that's circulating the internet sounds like this.
And the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I can't know that. Yeah, she still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
So it's faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. I can't believe that she said that. That is Ben Shapiro's take. He doesn't go after the arguments. He doesn't go after anything. Just says it's faux sophistication. And it's disgraceful. That's Ben's take on Candace's take. Well, they've gotten into a bit more of a dispute. Yesterday afternoon on Twitter, Candace Owens posted a Bible verse. Candace Owens is a Christian, and she posted, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." It's a great post. Ben Shapiro did not like it. Ben Shapiro quoted the tweet and responded with, "Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit." Ben is salty. Ben does not like Candace Owens, and Ben is reading into any post as a sneak diss on him. So after he posts that, if you think that taking money from the Daily Wire comes between you and God, by all means quit, Candace responds back, and she just starts throwing haymakers. And I love it, because she's so on point here. She says back to Ben Shapiro, "You have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we've all had to sit back and allow it, and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it." And she's absolutely right. Ben Shapiro has been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks. You watch any of his podcasts, he is completely unhinged. She even says, we've had to sit back and allow it and have tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion, which is, again, what I said. Yeah, I'm not even blaming you for being emotionally invested. I not being Jewish, I don't have the same raw emotional feel towards what's happening in Israel. And that's not to say that, I'm pro-Palestinian or I'm pro-Hamas. But listen, I think that there's a huge difference between the nation of Israel and what the government of Israel is doing. I think it's okay to say what happened on October 7th and the terrorist attack was terrible and shouldn't have happened, and you can condemn it. And then to also look at bombings of what the children are dealing with in Gaza and say, this is bad too. I think you can do both. I think that it's okay to ask the question, is there another way to do this? But not everybody feels that way. And I think it's your right to not feel that way. And I think that the point is we need to have more of a discussion about it. Ben Shapiro doesn't want to have the discussion. Ben Shapiro wants to shout her down when she's not around to respond. That's how Ben is handling it. Ben wants to read into tweets and attack her for what he looks at as a sneak diss of some sort. Candace isn't having it. Candace Owens sat down with Tucker Carlson and discussed this whole thing. And we have that audio for you coming up. I mean, it is the craziest thing, though, where if you say you don't want to be involved in another forever war, that's the wrong take. But I can sit here and say, look, we're funding both sides of this conflict, and it's not going to end well. And it's not going to end anytime soon. And that's me, I can't believe you would say that. But it's the truth. The Biden administration is literally funding both sides of this conflict. It's looking like another forever war. I say stuff like that, I get called Neville Chamberlain on the super text line because you're not allowed to have dissenting opinion on this. And Candace covers that in her interview with Tucker Carlson, who was also attacked by Ben Shapiro for having wrong think when it comes to Israel and Hamas. So we're going to play that audio for you coming up. We got more on the way. Plus, I want your reactions to this. I want to know what you think with Candace Owens versus Ben Shapiro on the text line and the phone line, 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Another eye drop recall. Details coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Another one?
Another one, Brother Chris. And this is 27 of them.
I just got rid of the last ones they recalled.
Yeah. Looks like you better start putting the water hose in your face.
Oh, my gosh. And with inflation, they just keep getting more expensive. I can't replace the recalls with ones for the same price. They go up.
You know, if you think about it, we sure are trusting to put eye drops in our eyes, aren't we?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are crazy that we're very trusting about. But you're not allowed to question. That's another thing you're not allowed to question.
That's right.
Just do it. What are you doing? All this group think on eye drops. I'm over it. We're anti-eye drop on the Chris Hand Show. Not a good idea. We're talking about Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro. Candace goes on Tucker Carlson, and he asks her, how did you find out about this? The video of Ben Shapiro calling you out over your Israel take. How did you find out about this, Candace? If you missed the video, this is Ben Shapiro calling out Candace Owens.
The question is about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt.
And a room full of Ben's fans cheer him on. Yeah, she's disgraceful. How dare she have wrongthink? Well, Tucker asked, what caused the video? Where did this come from?
So maybe there's a point in the video where he explains what exactly you did wrong and how you were wrong. I haven't seen it. But to call somebody, quote, absolutely disgraceful, particularly a coworker, seems like a pretty big step. And I really don't know the background here. What is that about?
You know, there isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity on the issue that he was particularly speaking on. And in what was said, I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attack.
It is an ad hominem attack. So when you personally attack somebody about their character instead of addressing the issue at hand, I mean, she's so on point. How do you respond to that? And again, it does look like he wasn't being recorded. Look, it was a cell phone camera. Maybe after the video stopped, he explained. But in the clip that's circulating the internet, there's nothing to it. And she found out the same way you found out, via the internet. You don't talk about people behind your back. That's a character flaw. Unless you're going to say something that you would say to them to their face and address exactly what they're saying, it just feels slimy. But we do have more from the Candace Owens Tucker Carlson interview, which was released yesterday, where she's addressing this beef with Shapiro. And we'll cover that next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes and some consumer news you need to know. The FDA is recalling 27 more eye drop products investigators are linking to insanitary conditions. Brands including CVS Health, Leader, Rugby, Rite Aid, Target's Up and Up, Velocity Pharma, and Walmart with lot numbers and expiration dates between November 2023 to September 2025. Social media platform X owner Elon Musk under fire this morning after he agreed with an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, pushing the claim that Jewish communities promote hate against white people, drawing criticism from many, including White House National Security Spokesman John Kirby on Good Morning America.
We certainly abhor comments that are anti-Semitic in tone, and certainly don't associate ourselves with the comments that he might have made last night. I mean, that's just unacceptable.
In later posts, Musk appeared to backtrack from his earlier remarks, saying Jewish genocide is unacceptable to any reasonable person and hatred of white people does not extend to all Jewish communities. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. Two big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
So maybe there's a point in the video where he explains what exactly you did wrong and how you were wrong. I haven't seen it. But to call somebody, quote, absolutely disgraceful, particularly a coworker, seems like a pretty big step. And I really don't know the background here. What is that about?
You know, there isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks
Yes.
like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity on the issue that he was particularly speaking on. And in what was said, I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attack.
That's Candace Owens talking about how she found out that there was a video circulating of Ben Shapiro calling her utterly disgraceful for her comments on Israel versus Hamas. It's interesting. Candace sits down with Tucker Carlson, does a banger of an interview, and she doesn't resort to name calling throughout the entire interview. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, 938. Nashville's own Candace Owens. She's down here now. She's very consistent. I will say this. She's always stands by her principles. And I like that about her. I do. You know, when she's discussing Israel, you know, there are times where she's been attacked because she doesn't stick with the groupthink of, you know, banging the war drum and cheering on genocide. There was a tweet from November 6th where she said, and this is what's crazy. It's like people will call her anti-Semitic for some of her views, but she says something like this on Twitter: "The Israeli children are in fact missing, and it's abhorrent to tear down posters of them. There's no cap on posters, so if you'd like to post the New York children that are missing or any other missing children worldwide, you should do it. You have a right to advocate for causes you care about everywhere. I wouldn't tear down a poster of a missing Haitian child because this is not Haiti. Missing children anywhere is sad. I don't get why this is hard for people to understand." And that was her talking about, you know, people ripping down the posters of missing Israelis. She's principled. This isn't the signs of somebody who's unhinged and anti-Semitic. On the flip side, Ben Shapiro, it just feels like he's banging the war drum like the rest of the Republicans. And when you hear him attacking Candace Owens because she doesn't stick with the groupthink, it's really more revealing of Ben than anything else. And to her credit, Candace Owens says she's not going to respond to Ben Shapiro the same way. Oh, sorry. Audio froze. Hold on one second.
I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, you know, we disagree, or
Yeah.
I don't think she's correct, or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed in that, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks.
Yes.
I don't think it helps further discussion. And if that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with, I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
I totally agree. I said this earlier with Dan. There's going to be things that me and the other hosts of Super Talk disagree on. And that's okay. Like, that's welcomed because that's how you form an opinion. You look at things from different angles and different perspectives. You know, there's been times where I disagree with Murphy, and he explains it to me. And I go, oh, okay, I see it your way. Like that happens all the time. But if you just shout people down, you can't have a conversation. If you're just talking trash about your coworkers behind their back, things aren't going to get better. But Ben Shapiro chooses to just do that video behind her back. It wasn't a video. He was speaking about her. Somebody recorded it. Tucker asks, has Ben Shapiro called to apologize?
Has he texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word. It just was sort of something that he said. And you know what? Ben and I have many disagreements, so I don't think that that's particularly something that's interesting.
And then the question is,
They do have many disagreements. They've disagreed on the COVID vaccine, Ukraine, the 2020 election. But disagreements are good because disagreements lead to conversations, and then we can, gather more information. I would, instead of this being a beef on Twitter and a video circulating, you know what I would love? Just like a 2-hour sit-down conversation with Ben and Candace. Let's hear from both of them at the same time in a calm manner. talking about the issues of the day, especially because they disagree. Especially because they disagree. That's how you win people over.
Yeah, people would watch that.
That would be oh my gosh, millions.
Yes,
millions
of
views.
people.
But it does feel like Ben Shapiro is too emotionally invested in this. It does feel like Ben Shapiro is Israel first, not America first. And Candace, to me, feels like America first. I think it's okay to say that civilian deaths on both sides are wrong. I think it's okay to say funding both sides of this conflict is wrong. And that's what our government's currently doing. But I don't think that if you have a disagreement with somebody, you should trash them behind their back in front of some donors at some event that you're at. I think that's slimy. I would never do that to any of my coworkers. If I disagree with them, I would, do what a human does and talk to them. And Candace echoes the same thing. Don't trash your coworkers. It's kind of simple, pretty easy.
You know what? Ben and I have many disagreements, so I don't think that that's particularly something that's interesting. We disagreed on the COVID vaccine. We disagree on Ukraine and Russia. He has taken virtually every stance that has been the opposite of mine on every issue over the last 5 years. So I don't think that that's particularly remarkable.
Vaccine. Really, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was pro the COVID vaccine. I was anti the vaccine. We were all idiots for not getting the vaccine. So that's totally fine. I am totally open to people having a difference in opinion.
Right.
I would hope that amongst colleagues that it would always be civil disagreement, and I would never in a private event stand on a table and talk badly about Ben.
It's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time.
I mean, Tucker absolutely drags him right there. Oh, weird. So Ben was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time. Oh, weird. Weird. And I remember Ben Shapiro being so pro-vaccine. I remember so many conservatives being pro-vaccine, and you know what? At the time, with the information available, okay, that's a stance that's not like crazy. But as time goes on, that was wrong. Ukraine, Russia. I remember watching Fox News, and Russia blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Okay, as time goes on, that was untrue. We have to support Ukraine. Okay, as time goes on, it's not a good idea. And part of the problem with a lot of these big conflicts is we're so emotionally invested that you can't see the forest through the trees. One of the main things I said when the Israel-Hamas war kicked off was there's going to be a lot of emotional propaganda. And it's emotion-driven. And I didn't want to bang the war drum because I feel bad that they were attacked by terrorists. I don't want to send our troops over to another war in the Middle East when we're $33 trillion in debt and we have a wide open southern border. That's not America first. We have so many problems on our own, and I feel like it's wrong to be more emotionally upset about issues overseas than issues in our backyard, because we have plenty of issues in our backyard. It is so hard. It's like the Jordan Peterson line, and I'm not just bringing him up because he's Daily Wire too. But you got to clean your room before you change the world. Our room is a mess here in America, an absolute mess. But Tucker says, Shapiro's been on the wrong side, on the left, on the three biggest issues of our time. Weird.
It's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time, is what you're saying?
He has converted his opinions. He's accepted responsibility. He said, I was wrong about the vaccine.
Oh, good.
He is, obviously pro-pharma. His mom's a doctor. And I say to people, I'm very aware of my perspectives on big pharma, and I talk about it on my show openly. And I think that that's a tremendous credit to the Daily Wire that they allow a difference of opinions. But I as I said, hope that it would remain respectful and that you wouldn't throw your colleagues under a bus, so to speak, in a private setting.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair too. You shouldn't trash your colleagues. It's again, she mentions that being her stance on vaccine, being able to have those views of the Daily Wire, she appreciates. And I appreciate the Daily Wire allowing people to bring different views too. I appreciate Cumulus Media allowing me to bring different views to the table. I do fully understand not everybody will agree with everything every single host says on this station all the time. one of the best parts about this job is being able to engage in that discussion. And I want to know what you think about the Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro stuff. Phone lines are open for you if you want to chime in. 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. Tucker does ask, should people admit when they attack you for being wrong and then apologize when you're proven right? Because, like he points out, Ben was on the wrong side of all those issues. The vax, Ukraine. So should he apologize when you're proven right?
Look, we all get things wrong. I certainly have gotten a lot of things wrong. I think it's fair to be attacked for getting it wrong. But if you get it right, and it's proven that you got it right, and in 3 instances it has been proven that you did on the biggest issues of the day, shouldn't the people who attacked you apologize? And shouldn't someone at least point out, hey, Candace Owens was right about that?
I mean, we point out Candace Owens is right. And I agree that you shouldn't, you shouldn't expect to be right all the time anyway, and you should be willing to admit when you're wrong. That's one of the things on this show. I promise you, if I get something wrong, I'm happy to admit that. I am. But Candace is consistent in being right. Candace is consistent in sticking by her values. But shouldn't you get an apology when you're right and you're attacked?
No, I think what tends to happen is they have too much ego and they're too proud, and they want to sort of move on and pretend that they weren't as radical as they were in their stances, and calling you a grandma killer, if you wanted to go out the door and get groceries, or if you wanted to maybe see your grandma, because grandma shouldn't be dying alone, even if she is dying. So it takes a tremendous amount of humility to admit that you were wrong. People prefer to then pretend the internet will forget, and just that they had more nuance than they did on the issue of the day, which is fine with me. I'm totally fine.
It's one thing not to admit you're wrong. I understand it's difficult to do that. I have to force myself. But to attack other people for being right and then apologize for it does seem immoral.
It does. And it's hard to admit you're wrong. And one of the things I did when I got into this job is, I mean, you could ask Mac. I literally said day one, I was like, dude, I'm going to get so much wrong, but I'm just going to own it.
It's true.
I'll own it. I think that you need to have a certain amount of, humility to be able to be like, dude, got that one wrong. You know what I mean? You have to be able to admit when you're wrong.
It's important.
A lot of people can't do that. And that's okay. I'm not trying to judge people that can't admit when they're wrong. And I just think that Candace has been right about a lot of these issues. And Ben Shapiro hasn't learned his lesson. He still attacks her every single time on every major issue. He takes the opposite stance every single time. We got more from this Tucker Carlson Candace Owens interview. And there's some really, really good stuff, including Candace saying she doesn't think it's okay to say you can't be pro-America unless you're pro-Israel. We'll get to these comments on the way. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Paul Winkler, Inc. I got 4 wonderful kids, and me and my wife knew we needed to have a financial plan for the future in case any of these kids want to go to college. Plus, in these uncertain economic times, we want to be able to enjoy our retirement when hopefully one day we have grandkids. Well, we didn't have a financial plan until we linked up with Paul Winkler and his team at Paul Winkler, Inc. And, I'm so happy that we did because Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. These guys are unbelievable. And because they hold themselves to such a high standard, I got to tell you, I'm paid every time this commercial airs. And that's the truth. But that's not why I'm a client. I'm a client because they can break down the financial world in a way for a guy like me to understand it. They provide me with investment education that's backed by Nobel Prize winning research. They bring those receipts to you. And Paul and his team are smart guys. And the biggest kicker for me, they don't do anything on commission. So when they tell you a financial move for you and your family, you can be sure it's for you and your family, not for their family, because nothing is done on commission. The advice that they're going to give you is honest and, again, backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. Check these guys out. Every single office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience. That experience you can feel as soon as you walk in the door. Do what I did. Talk to one of his team members today. You can set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Another eye drop recall in this country, a scathing George Santos ethics report, and a gift card scam. These stories and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What kind of train wreck was that, Mac? the best part about that whole thing, I obviously give him crap because when I was producing, there was much more train wrecks than that. But the funniest part was Mac's face.
I was like, what's happening?
Let's go to Missy in Franklin real quick. She's got a comment on Candace Owens. Missy, what do you think about Candace and Ben Shapiro's beef?
Well, I was a little shocked and saddened when I saw it. I'm a subscriber to the Daily Wire, so I keep up with both of them pretty regularly. I'm really, really pleased with Candace's character. And just like you said before, I think she's very consistent. About the question, whether we should forgive somebody after they realize that they're wrong or after they've been called out, I really think that one of the main differences, and this is just my opinion, obviously, between Candace and Ben is that Candace actually knows Jesus Christ as her Savior. And I think as a Jewish gentleman, Ben doesn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. So I would imagine and hope, and judging from what I've seen of Candace's character, even her response to this, I would imagine she's probably already chosen to forgive him. I think people watching are, it's the people that are watching that actually follow them that are seeing a little bit of insight into Ben's, emotionalness. And I think there's grace for that. Hopefully he will realize that what he did was just very dishonoring and disrespectful. And hopefully he will have a private conversation with Candace and, apologize. I do think that because Ben has because he is Jewish, he has family in Israel. He obviously loves Israel and loves his homeland. That's wonderful. But there are really much deeper ties probably with him with Israel. And I'm not faulting him on it. It's beautiful. I think that you can, when I hear his emotionalness, I realize that it's attached to pain. And so, what happened and what has happened and all of the history of the Jewish people, he's bringing all of that emotion when he speaks. He's not just bringing in, what happened last month.
Yeah.
And so, I have to give him some grace and hope that he realizes what he did was not, honoring for Candace. But I love both of them. I think both of them have a lot of wisdom and insight. I'm really proud of Candace. I'm really proud of Candace for responding the way that she did. I think what she did was honoring.
Hey, thanks for
very kind.
I totally agree with your take. Thanks for the call, Missy. I think it's fascinating, and Ben does seem more emotional. Ben, I guess you could say, does have more ties to Israel, but I don't think that being pro-America means you're anti-Israel. And when people say that, Candace Owens is being anti-Semitic, Candace Owens flew to Jerusalem when they opened the embassy there. She stuck it out and traveled for 18 hours. So, she has ties there too. Her Lord and Savior is from that area too. And I think that sometimes we mix up the government of Israel with the nation of Israel and the people of Israel. And it's a weird thing. One can't be discerned from the other. It's an all or nothing thing, especially for a guy like Ben Shapiro. There's more from this on the way. Sorry, we're running late. The news with Ken Weaver happens right now on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes and some consumer news you need to know. The FDA recalling 27 more eye drop products investigators linked to insanitary conditions. Users could get infections, but so far no reports of any. The brands in question include CVS Health, Leader, Rugby, Rite Aid, Target's Up and Up, Velocity Pharma, and Walmart. The lot numbers and expiration dates are between November of 2023 to September 2025. The FDA says stop using them. Meanwhile, Amazon says it took 7 different types of eye drops off their online store after a warning from the FDA.
The FDA saying Amazon violated federal regulations by selling the drops, which were not recognized as safe or effective. The drops claim to help with a variety of eye issues. Experts say eye drops can pose a greater risk to the user because they're placed directly into your eyes, bypassing some of the body's natural defenses.
That's Ariel Reshef reporting. And right now in our nation's capital, the House Ethics Committee just released a scathing 56-page report on New York Republican Congressman George Santos. It says there is, quote, substantial evidence federal crimes were committed. It outlines the allegations of wire fraud, falsification of records, aggravated identity theft, credit card fraud, and more against Santos. It did not make an official recommendation, but ethics investigators did urge members of the House to take, quote, any action they deem appropriate and necessary against Santos, which could include expulsion. And a warning from the Better Business Bureau about scammers who could steal someone's money through a gift card. Scammers, according to the BBB, will pretend to be from a business or even from a government agency like the IRS and demand payment.
This is unfortunately peak fraud season, with everyone shopping, preparing for the holidays. And according to the Better Business Bureau, consumers should be on high alert for these scams, which are up 50% from last year.
That's Rebecca Jarvis and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
My name is Angela Gones. I was addicted to pills for probably 15 years. I had lost my kids. I'd lost everything. I finally hit rock bottom. I graduated in December last year. I got hurt. Got full custody, everything. I love working here. I get to give back what was given to me. You know, what drew me to this place is most of the people here has been through this, so they can understand more. It helps so many lives. It gives us food, it gives us shelter. That's something that we didn't have when we came here. People here really care.
.07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Got a great text here. 1711 says, why is this even a news story? Who cares? Talk about Candace Owens versus Ben Shapiro. I think I can tell you why it's a news story. Two of the biggest conservative media personalities have a disagreement about the biggest news story in the world. And this big news story in the world, Israel versus Hamas, the war, the terror attack, it seems like you're only allowed to have one take on it, or you are labeled as anti-Semitic if you're a Republican. It just feels that way. It feels like unless you are banging the war drum and saying we need to fund Israel, we need to back Israel, we need to do this, unless you're doing that, you're anti-Semitic. Silence is violence otherwise. And to me, I think that you can look at this conflict and say Israel should do what they need to do. Terrorist attacks should not be tolerated. And then at the same time say it's really sad to see civilians in Gaza get killed. I don't think that's a terrible take. But it's a take that if you say, many people will just downright call you anti-Semitic in the current Republican Party. And we're seeing that with Candace Owens. If you're a Republican and you say, I don't like the way we're banging the war drum, I don't like the way it feels like we're chanting on genocide, I don't like the way civilians are being injured in Gaza, you're an anti-Semite. And you don't love the nation of Israel. That's what they'll tell you. And you know what? To be fair, it's not just the Republican Party. It seems like the Democrat Party is doing that too. There's no nuance. There's no middle ground here. And also, our government is funding both sides of this conflict. Joe Biden is trying to release more money to Iran. The money for the hostages for Iran, you can argue, was used to fund the terrorist attack in Israel. We're sending billions to Israel in aid every year. We're funding both sides of this war. We are. And that's not America first. It's not. It's not. And you can say that Israel has the right to defend themselves from the terrorist attack. But you're also, at the same time, not allowed to ask the question, how did the terrorist attack happen? Charlie Kirk got a lot of flack for asking how the terrorist attack happened. And the questions he raised weren't conspiracy questions. They're questions that we still don't really have answers for.
But I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
I think it is a legitimate question. I think it's a question that we still don't have an answer for. They said, we can't handle that right now. We're grieving. And okay. Can we talk about it now? Are we allowed to discuss that now? No. You just have to fund both sides of the war and stop asking questions, or you're an anti-Semite. We have to provide aid to the people in Gaza, and we also have to provide weapons to the people in Israel. That's not America first. And we still have to just leave our border wide open and not worry about everybody dying in America from fentanyl. And we have to clean up San Francisco real quick because China's coming. The boss is in town. But you're not allowed to ask these questions. Candace Owens brings up a great point. I think this is the crux of the argument. I want to ask what you think about it. People say you can't be pro-America unless you're pro-Israel. I don't think that's correct. I think you can be pro-America and at the same time not be pro-Israel. And when they say pro-Israel, I'm talking about the government. I'm not talking about the nation. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the government that the citizens of Israel were protesting against, the government that was on a verge of a civil war before this terrorist attack. That's what I'm talking about. But can you be pro-America if you're not pro-Israel?
We don't have an identity. We've completely lost what it means to be an American. It is why I feel very inspired when I hear someone like Vivek Ramaswamy speak and talk about American principles. I hate the way that they illustrate their opinions about people that want that old America, that are nostalgic about that America. When someone says, and I've heard of this statement, and I can't remember who said it, but you can't be pro-American unless you're pro-Israel. I just thought of the person who's probably in West Virginia who had both his legs blown off, right, fighting overseas, who is pro-American, and you're telling him like, no, 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 unless you agree that every single war should be everywhere, you're not pro-American. We've lost our identity. I mean, that's completely a foolish thing to say. And I say this to somebody who, if I was going to be radical anything, I'm probably radically pro-UK, right? I married a Brit. My children have dual citizenship. I would never utter the sentence that to be pro-America means to be pro-British. I love the Brits. I love everything about, I love being in the United Kingdom, but I know what it means to be pro-American. It means to be pro-American.
I couldn't, as someone who's ancestors from the UK, I couldn't agree more.
Can you be pro-America unless you're pro-Israel? 615-737-9986. Candace Owens says you can be pro-America without being pro-Israel. You can be pro-America and not want forever wars. And if it was any other country, it would be such a silly question. If we're talking about Ireland, you can't be pro-America unless you're pro-Ireland. It doesn't make any sense. But yet, for whatever reason, we have to stand in defense of our greatest ally in this conflict. And I just think they can handle it on their own. I think that they can handle it on their own. Can you be pro-America without being pro-Israel? Let's go to Dave in Hendersonville. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Dave?
You absolutely can, man. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You absolutely can. I don't, this war going on over there, Israel has every right to go in there and do what they need to do. The Palestinians that are being killed is, mainly because Hamas is not letting them leave. They're keeping them there, using them for human shields. Everybody knows that, except for the Palestinians. But they know it too. But they're not gonna say anything about it. The ones that need to be. Look, the Palestinians, they chant from the river to the sea. That's pretty much. I haven't heard any Palestinians not think that. They indoctrinate their children from when they're very young to believe that. So, to me, go in, get the babies out of the hospital, get them safe, because you're not only saving them in two ways. You're not only saving their life from the war, but you're saving them. You're saving them their souls, so they're not raised to believe all that crap that they teach them. That's.
Dave, do you think we're funding both sides of this conflict, and do you think it serves America's interests?
I do, in the sense of I don't think we need to be giving Iran one red cent.
I'm with you.
On the other hand, Israel, yes, and the reason I say that is because if Israel don't take them out, guess where they're going? And we've got them over here already. Well, I mean, we've been seeing them in the street.
But that's one of the things that I think is one of the bigger issues. We're so pro-Israel that the pro-America stuff is taking a back seat. And as we're funding both sides of this conflict, our border's wide open, and we have Hamas terrorists, Border Patrol agents being told, be on the lookout for Hamas terrorists coming over our border.
And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, when you've got Christopher Wray sitting there in front of the committee saying, every field office they have is just completely swamped with threats, and they're watching. And of course, this is all because of the leftist policy. It wasn't like this with President Trump in office. It wasn't like it at all. We didn't have that to worry about because he kept it closed. He kept them. He kept the bad guys out of our country. But if we don't, I think if we don't let Israel do what they need to do, and again, we've already got some over here. It's gonna get worse, and it's gonna be worse for us.
Yeah.
I think we need to help Israel with how we can, and rescue the babies from the hospitals. The rest of them, if they don't get out, look, Palestine, the Palestinians, if they wanted to get rid of Hamas, I'm sorry, I've got the mindset that if they really wanted to get rid of Hamas, if Hamas was the whole problem, they could go in and get rid of them. You know, if you need help, if you're actually going to do something for humanity to help your people, then maybe we can help you some.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
we're not going to.
well, we're
we're
not helping anybody when we're funding both sides of this thing. I appreciate the call, Dave. Thanks so much. Let's go to John in Smyrna next. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Do you think that you can't be pro-America unless you're pro-Israel, John?
I think you can be pro-America and not pro-anybody else, actually.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think about this disagreement between Candace and Ben?
Well, I'm saddened by the fact that Ben did what he did. I think, generally speaking, I've had a high regard for both people, probably a little bit more for Candace because of her convictions that she has. I think we're going to see more of this as time goes on, and that's what bothers me, I guess, more than anything. But I wanted to say something about the funding of both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're spot on. You're dead right that we're doing that. But tell me I'm wrong about this. If I understand the financial part of how this is working, we don't actually have the money to fund them, to fund Israel. We have to eventually borrow it.
Yeah, I don't think we have the money to fund any of this, yet here we are, $33 trillion in debt.
Exactly. So I would sit back and say to Israel, your credit rating probably is strong enough to borrow your money on your own, and let's keep the U.S. out of that and quit funding Iran because we're borrowing money to do that.
John, I couldn't be more with you on any topic. We are borrowing money, and we're going to pay that interest on the borrowed money to fund two sides of this war.
Bingo.
Yeah, hey,
it's stupid.
It is stupid, and I'm tired of saying that it's not. It's absolutely frustrating to me, and I appreciate the call. But it seems like America has a fund both sides problem, and we've been doing it, feels like, for a long time. We love funding both sides of a war. It's the craziest thing, and we will just continue to do it because you're not allowed to speak out against it. It is 10:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Curtis, Brent, Gary, I see you guys hanging on the line. We'll get to your calls next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee, right at home in the woods of Tennessee, right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
Consumer news you need to know. More eye drops are being recalled, and there's breaking news out of our nation's capital involving a Republican congressman who says he's done. Details at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, my gosh. With a tease like that, can we just skip right to the news, Ken?
We can't do that, Brother Chris. That would break protocol.
You know how I am about protocol.
Yeah.
I'm a stickler for protocol.
Yeah, we're big on that sort of thing here.
We love protocol. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 1025. I'm Chris Hand. We're talking about this Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro beef. Candace goes on Tucker Carlson and gives a great interview. And one of the things she says is she's tired of hearing that you can't be pro-America unless you're pro-Israel. It's an interesting thing. I'm tired of hearing it as well. I think that America first and being pro-America doesn't just mean you're anti-Israel, but it seems like some people, if you're not gung-ho for Israel, that means you're against Israel. And I think there needs to be more nuance. But I want to hear your take on it. 615-737-9986. Let's go to Curtis in the borough. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Curtis?
Thank you, sir, for taking my call. Hopefully you can hear me on his Bluetooth.
Oh, yeah, I got you, man.
I'm an American through and through, okay? I had dual citizenship, and I became an American citizen at age 7. Long story. But I will hold up the American flag with my dying breath, okay? You don't have to support anybody else, and as much as I admire the state of Israel, being a history buff and seeing what they've gone through to survive as a people, you have to admire them. And but the truth in a war, the truth is the first thing destroyed. And I love how the BBC the other day came out with a story about how the Israelis were attacking doctors at this hospital. Then 20 minutes later, go, "Oops, sorry."
Or the way they all reported that Israel blew up the hospital,
Exactly. And but no, you don't have to support anybody. But this is my beef against conservative people, which I am one. If you look at the person next to you and they're not 100% exactly what you say that you feel and you believe and you think and then they're wrong. You may be 99.9% the same, but it's aggravating. But I admire both these two people, Ben Shapiro and Candace. They're very intelligent, very articulate people, and I don't think they need to kiss and make up, but they ought to just realize that this is a bigger picture than just supporting Israel, and we have allowed a bunch of people in this country that absolutely would love to destroy us.
Oh,
absolutely,
100%. And I think that's one of my
amazing things. Oh, go ahead.
I think that's one of my biggest issues is we have so many problems here. I don't understand why we need to be funding another war in the Middle East, both sides, mind you. Who do you think is closer to the average Republican view, the average Republican voter's views? Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro?
I would say Candace. But it's 90% certain that she would probably be, not 100%. But I just think she would be. But here's my beef about this, and everything is boiled down to the power elite people. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there are people making a crap load of money off arming both sides. It's been going on for centuries. And I hate to say this, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden's probably out there working the weeds out there for his commission.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joe Biden's brother,
and nobody says a thing.
Joe Biden's brother got big contracts rebuilding Iraq. This is what happens. War is profitable.
Why are we funding Iran? We paid $1 billion for 6 people, that probably shouldn't have been over there in the first place. I understand it's terrible, but these Muslims for centuries, that's their modus operandi of taking hostages, and you have to pay the ransom. And darn well that money turned around, flipped around, even though it's for humanitarian, I'm doing this air quotes, humanitarian reasons, that just frees up money to go to the funding the terrorist.
Well, and it emboldens them. It emboldens them to go get more hostages, like we've seen in this terrorist attack from Hamas on Israel. More hostages taken. You know, when you're getting paid for hostages are a priority.
Thomas Jefferson was dealing with this problem at the beginning of our country, where he sent the Marines over there in the first engagement in Tripoli. You know, just. We will never learn. We're stupid, but that's because there are people making money off of us being kept in the darkness. Thank you for listening.
Hey, man, I appreciate your call, Curtis. You are welcome to call anytime. It is 10:30. I'll get to the rest of your calls next. Right now, Ken Weaver in the news on Super Talk.
10:30 on the dot this Thursday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes and the consumer news you need to know. 27 more eye drop products being recalled for the risk of infection. The FDA says it found these products to be linked to insanitary conditions. The brands in question include CVS Health, Leader, Rugby, Rite Aid, Target's Up and Up, Velocity Pharma, and Walmart. Lot numbers and expiration dates between November 2023 to September 2025. Breaking news out of our nation's capital. New York Republican Congressman George Santos says he's not going to run for re-election. This comes after the House Ethics Committee this morning released a 56-page outline of the charges against Santos. It says there is, quote, substantial evidence federal crimes were committed. And crime in Nashville. Channel 4 says a suspect is under arrest after a father was pistol whipped in front of his children during a Facebook Marketplace exchange 6 months ago. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. Two big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
When someone says, and I've heard of this statement, and I can't remember who said it, but you can't be pro-American unless you're pro-Israel. I just thought of the person who's probably in West Virginia who had both his legs blown off, right, fighting overseas, who is pro-American, and you're telling him like, no, unless you agree that every single war should be everywhere, you're not pro-American.
Can you be pro-America if you're not also pro-Israel? Such a good question. Some people are very much in the camp of, unless you're pro-Israel, you're not pro-America. I want to know what you think. 615-737-9986. Let's go to Brent in Winchester. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Brent?
Hey, Chris. First of all, I want to say the guy in Smyrna, it's kind of sad that he had to preface what he said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, to spit some common sense.
It feels like everything in this conversation, you almost have to preface it. Like, it's so weird. It's like you can't be against funding this war unless you say, I understand that there was a terrorist attack and that's terrible. I understand Israel has the right to defend themselves. Like, these are common sense things that most Americans agree with.
And I heard your transition this morning when y'all were talking about, I don't know, the internet or I have a teenage son, so I want to tell you, don't be mid, bruh. Because you and Candace are asking the right questions, but what's the answer? I mean, that's kind of my problem. Like, I don't really have an answer to a nuanced solution, so.
Well, I think that's the problem because,
like, which side do you think is best?
And I think that's one of the issues with Ben taking shots at her behind her back, because a lot of us are looking at the situation and go, I don't know what the answer is, but I know we're not allowed to talk about it unless we only have the right opinion.
I hear you on that. And I listen to you all the time because you're like the critical thinker that I listen to on the radio, that you always ask the right questions, but in this situation, we don't really have the right answer.
No, but I do think that we know what the wrong answer is, and I think we can look at this situation. I think the wrong answer is funding both sides of this conflict.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, I mean, the funding Iraq is. I don't even understand what that's about. Why?
It just seems like that's what
like a payoff or something. Like, don't do something and we'll give you money. I don't even understand why we do that.
It's the craziest thing, and we're about to release more money to these guys, and we pay them for hostages, and then more hostages are taken by their terrorist groups that they fund. It's the craziest thing.
You're my man. Find the answer, though.
Hey, I'll keep looking. I appreciate the call, Brent. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to take your calls on this question from Candace Owens. Is there a way you can be pro-America if you're not pro-Israel? And if you're not pro-Israel, does that mean you're anti-Israel? I don't think so. For me, I don't want to be involved in this conflict at all. It looks like another forever war waiting to happen. We're $33 trillion in debt. We have a wide open southern border. We have Hamas terrorists, Border Patrol agents are being told, be on the lookout for Hamas terrorists coming across our border. Yet, we're funding both sides of this conflict overseas. It's the craziest thing. Let's go to Gary in Greenbrier. You're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Gary? Yo, Gary. Let's go to Jim next. Put Gary back on hold. We'll give him another chance in a minute. Jim, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Jim?
Thanks, Chris. I'm probably going to make some people mad by this statement, but I question the sincerity of the Jews in America over the plight of Israel, because they consistently have overwhelmingly voted Democrat for quite a while, and the Democrats, their policies don't favor Israel.
I mean, I think it was Trump said, you have no choice but to vote for me. And when Trump's in office, we're getting the Abraham Accords. We're getting peace deals with Israel. We're getting flights for the World Cup. What country was that? Was that Qatar or Qatar? The last World Cup. Mac, where was the last World Cup?
Yes.
Qatar. So that was like the first time Israel had flights in there. That's all under, because of Donald Trump's policies. And yet they vote Democrat, and the Democrat Party is unhinged and want to fund both sides of this conflict, it feels like.
Well, you look at also how Obama treated them. Obama was openly hostile, and I don't really think I can't say Joe's been openly hostile. I can't really say Joe's done anything, but I think inactivity is not helped the matter over there. But I think that the Jews in America have to kind of wake up and realize who really supports them. And they try to play both sides of the fence sometimes.
No, and I think that, a lot of times you do get what you're voting for.
Exactly.
It's crazy. But, it does seem like that tide is turning, and it seems like there's many Jews who look at what Rashida Tlaib is doing, what the squad is doing, and say, yeah, I don't think I can vote for this anymore.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Hey, man, I appreciate you calling. Thanks, Jim. Fox News had a report a couple weeks back. Jewish Americans could show significant change in voting and support Republican candidates in 2024. Yeah, duh. It makes the most sense. Of course. All right, Gary is back. Gary, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Gary?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
All right. Well, while hanging on here, a lot has gone and been said, so I'm going to kind of regroup here. But number one, because we have a totally unreasonable, unconstitutional thinking government, and it's been eroding for decades, I have to use a simple filter. And that filter is what is good for my country and the general welfare of the people of my country, and who are our enemies and who aren't. So it's ludicrous to fund any people, any country that says death to us.
Amen.
Now, that's the height of insanity.
Yep.
And the other thing is, I'm pro-Israel, and we're 30-something trillion in the hole, and we really can't fund anything anymore. But I'm pro-Israel just from a moral standpoint, because they have every right to do what they're doing and incinerate Gaza. We bombed Dresden, Germany, with incendiary bombs, and it had no military strategic value at all in Germany during World War II. We incinerated Japan before we even did 2 nuclear weapons on 2 major cities. Now, the Democrat Party has got a real problem. They're so corrupted with money, power, and making money off of war. My dad was in Vietnam as a command sergeant major in the worst 67-68 time frame. And he said within 1 week he knew that the Democrat Party never intended to win that war. Well, when the president's wife, Johnson's wife, owns half the stock in rubber plantations, guess where you could not shoot and the enemy would assemble prior to attack? Rubber plantations.
Weird.
Right? Yeah. Guess who had so much money invested in Bell helicopters? The president himself.
Weird.
I mean, the Democrat Party, I saw it when I was in state government, my second career. I'm retired military.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you, kindly. The day after 9/11, I saw this state government, I'm retired from there, 2 absolute yellow dog Democrats trading war stock the next morning in the office, state government property. When I walked in and one of them was my boss, I went ballistic. I said, "You got to be kidding me. The bodies aren't even all dead yet. In the rubble, and you're trading war stock?" Walked out the building.
I don't blame you, man. This war stuff is big business, and nobody really cares about civilians on either side. This is a profit game. It's like, and I'm just. It feels like we're not asking the right questions. Why are we funding both sides of this war? Why? How is this helping the interest of America?
And the steel that the Japanese used to build their huge imperial navy and air forces, everything that they used came from us.
Yeah, that was from Pittsburgh.
It came from us.
Yep.
And General Billy Mitchell, who they courts-martialed for even trying to prove the Japanese would attack Pearl Harbor and would do it with airplanes by sinking an old ship in the Pacific in 1936, he had to go through a courts-martial for daring to even show the Japanese could do it and would do it. Yep. And what did they do? They did it. Yeah. It's like, I trust the Democrat Party. My dad came back from Vietnam. He burned Democrat Party card. He said, I'm done.
Based.
They are the most corrupt, and there are a ton of rhinos in there.
Oh, yeah.
These people are so corrupt and so dirty that I can't even stand to look at one.
Well, for me, when people talk about the Uniparty, I look at the war hawk politicians who are making their money off of war. That's the Uniparty.
Yes. And this here, the saddest part of it all, and I did 20 years in the military, and I got in during the Vietnam era and whatever, but that's another story. You lose people, and you're young, and you think of it in the highest, noblest terms, and then you suffer guilt and all because you're not hurt or killed, right? You think that your government is at the same level of honor code. And I have to admit, after I retired in 1996 and really got to live the civilian life, I went in 71, then I went to college at 4 years in the Corps, you get that I found out something. Heck no, they don't.
No, and you know what? To them, this is it. Listen, Gary, if you and I were playing chess and I wanted to win the game, do you think I'd be willing to sacrifice a pawn?
Oh, yes.
And that's all we are. That's all this is. People are sacrificing pawns, making the best move they can on the chessboard to win the game, and they don't care about the pawns.
And that brings us to this point, because I do have a son in the 82nd Airborne. He's a fast-rising enlisted sergeant, and he's probably going to get out. And he's very good at what he does. The thing is straight up, they're not meeting their enlistment goals, their retention goals, or anything, because it's falling apart.
Yep.
The barracks, when I saw the barracks he was in before he got married, there'd been a courts-martial for the entire chain of command. It was that filthy and black mold, and I mean, we had to clean his barracks up, his 2 rooms, him and his buddy. I scrubbed in because he got married, and I had to go back and I scrubbed in his apartment, all this black filth. I cried. I couldn't believe it. I'm a former enlisted Marine, a retired officer. I couldn't believe it. That's the 82nd Airborne.
Yeah, it's sad, man. None of this is serving America's interests, and we need to take care of our people first.
I think I've been enough, and I appreciate you, Chris, and I like you guys because you have funny moments there.
Hey,
you break it up.
Gary, I appreciate you listening, and it's like, and thank you for that. Thank you for the call, Gary. It is we do, and we do try to joke because these news cycles are so heavy that sometimes you have to not let this steal your joy. Like I think a couple weeks ago I was like, I'm going home for the weekend and I'm not going to watch any news.
Yeah,
I'm going to play hockey in the driveway.
Heck yeah,
like that's I get it. The news cycle is heavy. So we do try to break it up every now and again. But we also try and ask the right questions. Can you be pro-America if you're not pro-Israel? If you're America first, does that mean you're anti-Israel? Is it okay to be funding both sides of this conflict over in Israel? These are the questions that need to be asked. These are the questions that Candace Owens asked. And you got Ben Shapiro all up in her grill, talking about her behind the scenes, sending mean tweets. I think Ben was too emotionally invested. I think Candace is consistent in her views. I think that she's super smart. And I appreciate the fact that she's trying to bring more nuance into the conversation. I want you to bring more nuance into the conversation as well. 615-737-9986. More of your calls next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Oh, another eye drop recall. A Republican in Congress says he's one and done. The deal is done between the union and GM, and money news going into Thanksgiving. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I got a text here that says, in particular, this conflict being pro-Israel is being pro-American. Hamas wants America dead too, and we will eventually be faced with what Israel is now. And I say to this texter, 4988, this is where the lack of nuance comes in. I don't think that we need to be funding Israel to fight their war. First, we give them billions in aid every year for their military. They can defend themselves. They want to defend themselves. But we're also funding the side of the Palestinians through Iran, through the aid we're sending. And at the same time, you say, we will eventually be faced with what Israel is now. I say, yeah, maybe that's why we need to secure our southern border and focus on America first threats. I got a text here from 1137. I'm a prior service Marine and current law enforcement officer. I do not for 1 second think we should be funding any of these wars. I wish someone would tell me to my face I'm not pro-American. That's from 1137. I wouldn't tell him anything mean to his face. Not a battle I want to pick.
No.
Dan texted and he said the answer is to end all foreign aid. That was 9858. Listen, this conversation is fascinating. Stephanie has been holding on the line for quite a bit. Stephanie, you're next, right after Ken Weaver's news, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot this Thursday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now, some consumer news you need to know. A recall involving 27 eye drop products that the FDA says could give you an infection. The regulators say these products were found to be linked to unsanitary conditions. The brands in question include CVS Health, Leader, Rugby, Rite Aid, Target's Up and Up, Velocity Pharma, and Walmart. The lot numbers and expiration dates are between November 2023 to September 2025. Breaking news out of our nation's capital, New York Republican Congressman George Santos says he will not run for re-election. It comes after the House Ethics Committee this morning released a 56-page outline of the charges against Santos.
It could be the most damning report ever issued by the House Ethics Committee, accusing a member of violating campaign finance law, deceiving donors, stealing funds, lying about his background, and calling the integrity of the House into question. The committee says it's turning its evidence over to federal prosecutors. George Santos blasts the investigation as biased. He says while he'll continue serving as long as he's allowed, he won't run for re-election. The Ethics Committee chair is now expected to bring a motion to expel Santos, teeing up a vote after the Thanksgiving break.
As Stephen Portnoy reporting. Well, that proposed contract between the United Auto Workers and GM has been ratified. The deal comes after unionized workers at 11 factories voted against ratification, but voted parts of depots and parts depots and a battery plant broke in favor of the deal. And all just over 50% of GM workers voted for this new contract, so it's slim. The UAW's proposed contracts with Ford and Stellantis have yet to be ratified. Here's some money news for Thanksgiving.
Compared to last year, this year's Thanksgiving feast will gobble up less of your money. The American Farm Bureau figures the average holiday dinner for 10 will cost $61.17, or around $6.12 per person. That's a 4.5% decrease from last year's record high average of $64.05 for the meal, but still about 25% higher than your banquet cost in 2019 before the pandemic inflation surge. Helping bring prices down a bit this year, lower cost turkeys. A 16-pounder is over 5% cheaper this year.
That is Dave Packer, and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
My name is Angela Gones. I was addicted to pills for probably 15 years. I had lost my kids. I'd lost everything. I finally hit rock bottom. I graduated in December last year. I got hurt. Got full custody, everything. I love working here. I get to give back what was given to me. You know, what drew me to this place is most of the people here has been through this, so they can understand more. It helps so many lives. It gives us food, it gives us shelter. That's something that we didn't have when we came here. People here really care.
I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I also think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching that. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country's being invaded right now by millions of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
That was Tucker Carlson talking to Candace Owens about basically the beef between her and Ben Shapiro over her Israel Hamas war takes, which is, what interest does this serve America? And she's right. I don't know if it does serve America's any interest of America. Tucker points out that the emotional nature of a lot of commentators covering this topic, and I agree with him. He says, there's no emotional outrage over the fentanyl crisis in our country. There's no real emotional outrage over the wide open southern border, not like what we're seeing with Israel versus Hamas. Why is that? I've lost a lot of good friends to overdoses and fentanyl. A lot of people I know, family members. I mean, nobody gets that upset. Why can't we fix our problems here in America first? And why does it seem like people parrot the statement, if you're not pro-Israel, you're not pro-America? I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Stephanie in Nashville, you're next on Super Talk. What's up?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for holding, Stephanie. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So I think your question is a trick question, in a sense.
Which question is that?
On to basically pick a side. So if your politicians, if 90% are dual citizens to Israel, then it doesn't really matter what the American people say or what side you pick, right?
I'm listening, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I think it really is irrelevant to what people think or a side you choose, because your politicians already chose their side, and they have control over you and the money and where it goes. And they're funding all of it on all sides. While everybody here is, fighting about it, trying to pick a side, and in the meantime, they're passing the Ammo Act, and they're going to the FCC and trying to regulate what you say on social media. And communism is here, and Unions have came across the border, and they're continuing to come across the border. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if the number on dual citizenship that you have is correct. We'll fact check it. I appreciate your call, Stephanie. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, you should really fact check that and put out the list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of.
People are asking the wrong questions.
No, I get what you're hinting at, and I appreciate the call, Stephanie. Thank you. I mean, I don't think any elected officials should have dual citizenship. I don't care if it's with Ireland or Sudan. I just think that our elected officials should be America first. And elected officials make a lot of money off war. There's no debating that. But I don't know if 90% of our elected officials have dual citizenship. I don't think that's factual. But the conversation continues. We were talking about Candace Owens versus Ben Shapiro. And, the interview wasn't all Israel-Hamas. I just actually saw a poll where they have CNN on in the studio here, and I don't know why. It's just like... It's like torture. It's like slow torture.
Exactly.
Anyway,
They're testing you.
I looked up during the commercial. It's like, Nikki Haley surges to number 2 in latest poll. I'm like, what? Why? Why? Nikki Haley is a trash politician. She is a war hawk. She wants you. This is so funny. She wants you to have your real name on the internet. She doesn't think that you should be allowed to be anonymous on the internet, which I think is garbage. I think you should be allowed to be anonymous if you want to be. Tucker Carlson calls her out for using a pseudonym herself.
So Nikki Haley, this has been noted online, but is not her real name, of course. It's a pseudonym. And so she's not even using a real name and telling us that we have to register with the government under our real names in order to give our opinions. That's obviously contrary to the First Amendment. I don't know why the anchor didn't say something about it to her, but sort of nodded, oh, it's accountability. But it's fascism, actually. So, why isn't Nikki Haley getting laughed off the stage.
I'm laughing her off the stage. And as far as the anchor that didn't hold her to accountability, it was Harris Faulkner on Fox News, and we all know a thing or two about Fox News. There's not much accountability, but I did Google. I was like, I missed this part. Nikki Haley, she operates under a pseudonym. Nimarata Nikki Rondawa is what she was born as. Nimarata
Nikki Rondawa Haley, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she just uses her middle name.
So she literally, her political career is under the use of a pseudonym. And she wants you to use your legal name on the internet. And she doesn't use her legal name. I think that's hilarious. So I was like, did she change that for political reasons? And then I found an article from the AP News. It was fact check. Claim Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley changed her name for political reasons. AP's assessment, false. So that's probably why she changed it, for political reasons.
I mean, is it technically a pseudonym?
I would think so, right?
A fictitious name? It's not really fictitious, but it definitely is not technically her real name. But yeah,
it's not her government. It's not the legal. Candace Owens did a great job of describing Nikki Haley.
Well, Nikki Haley is someone that I would describe as radical. She's a radical in this moment, and she's trying to present her opinions as not radical by hiding behind a terrorist attack, and it's not going to age well. So right now in this moment, people are like, this rhetoric is totally fine. You're going to look back in a year, and people are going to say, actually, this was kind of crazy, some of the things that she said. You know, she, in my view, has become increasingly radical every time she even hits the debate stage. I don't even know, what country she's running for president in.
Right. I mean, is she running for president of Ukraine, Israel? I mean, the point that I think Candace Owens gets across there is she doesn't even know how radical she's being. And once we get a little separation, you'll realize, whoa, I had some crazy takes there. And we can look back at like the Iraq invasion in 2003, and I'll say, yeah, that was a bad decision. At the time, everybody was just beating that war drum, ready to go. And I feel like a lot of these situations, Ukraine kicks off like, we got to defend democracy and help Ukraine. We get a little separation. We go, that probably wasn't the best idea. Why'd we do that? And that's one of the problems when you react emotionally to these kind of conflicts. I don't want to react emotionally to these conflicts. I want to look at it through the clear lens of, how does this help America? Is this in America's interests? Because a lot of people just blindly follow what their elected leaders do, what their thought leaders say. And that gets us into trouble. We need critical thought, we need clear thinking, and we need to take emotion out of it. How does the conflict help America? But Candace Owens goes on and says, Nikki Haley doesn't even really want to be president.
Based on even my own personal experiences with her, which I've documented on my podcast, as somebody who isn't looking to actually win president, doesn't want to become president of the United States. What she's looking to do is to secure certain contracts after she leaves the stage and she loses. And so for her, the motive are relationships that she's going to build and money that she's going to earn, as best evidenced by the fact that when Nikki Haley left her ambassadorship, she was broke, and now she's a millionaire, multimillionaire.
Doesn't that feel like a lot of our elected officials? You look at like the Republican presidential primaries, it feels like a lot of them are just there for the money. Like when we were joking back when old Mike Pence was in the race still, we said, why is Mike Pence running?
I don't know.
Well, I made the joke that he's just a laundromat. He's just cleaning money. I don't know why he's running either. He's not going to win. And I feel the same way about Nikki Haley. Candace says, she's doing it for money.
And you have to ask how that happens. And Vivek Ramaswamy has had the courage to talk about her contract with Boeing. So her concerns are not about American citizens whatsoever, which is why it's all about sort of kowtowing to the person that I think that she believes, or to people that she believes can write her the biggest checks. That's been my assessment of Nikki Haley from the very beginning. It's still my assessment now.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with her assessment of Nikki Haley. Do you think Nikki Haley is ever going to be president? CNN can tell us that she surges to number 2 in the polls. Like, congrats, first loser. Like, what's the Ricky Bobby? If you're not first, you're last. So I'm sorry. Keep cutting those checks, We talked yesterday, a big Tim Scott donor moved over to Nikki Haley. I would want the money back. I would. I also have another story here from the post-millennial. Nikki Haley, Nimarata, Nikki Haley, and Jamie Dimon are in secret talks over the U.S. financial future. Jamie Dimon is the J.P. Morgan Chase CEO, and apparently he's fond of Nikki Haley's grasp on the economy and her views on how business and government can work together to create economic growth. And apparently these guys have been having secret meetings. According to a top banking source who spoke with Axios, they quietly held private meetings, during this time, and they're discussing the financial future of the country. The big donors like Nikki Haley, because there's big money in war overseas, and Nikki Haley would be all for that. Axios reported that the J.P. Morgan Chase CEO is fond of Haley's grasp of the economy, her views on how business and government can work together to create economic growth. But this same guy had his name pop up in a lawsuit pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein, with the J.P. Morgan Chase chief executive denying at a deposition that he ever met with him, exchanged emails with him, or even discussed longstanding accounts with the bank internally. J.P. Morgan, that bank, has been sued by the U.S. Virgin Islands and several women who said they were victims of Epstein and are seeking damages as a result. It's always these people at the top that have the most questionable connections. A report from the Wall Street Journal said that numerous serious senior bankers from Chase had met with Epstein after 2013, and that was years after he'd been convicted of child prostitution charges in Florida in 2008. J.P. Morgan, in an official statement on the matter, say that in hindsight, any association with Epstein was a mistake. Yeah, totally weird. Bill Gates said that too. Everybody said that, but Haley's campaign, they won't comment on the alleged conversations that she's having with the J.P. Morgan Chase CEO. But I don't know. Just like the company you keep. That's the company you keep. That's Nikki Haley for you. On the flip side, I don't want to be all doom and gloom all day. Donald Trump has been getting some big wins. Judges in Michigan have ruled that he can't be barred from the primary ballot. He will be on the primary ballot in Michigan, and this is after a Minnesota Supreme Court came to the same decision, that ballot removal plan is dead in the water. Absolutely dead in the water. And a new poll is showing that President Trump leads Joe Biden by 2 points nationally in a hypothetical head-to-head race. That's the latest Quinnipiac University poll. They have Trump 48, Biden 46. And they also have Trump winning with RFK Jr. in the mix. They have Trump at 38, Biden 37, RFK Jr. at 21. So the polls are in favor of Trump. That's some good news, and a little heartwarming thing for you. Yesterday, while Joe Biden was meeting with the president of China, Donald Trump went to Grandparents' Day, and his daughter posted this, or his daughter-in-law Laura Trump posted this video, and it's Donald Trump walking into a classroom with his granddaughter. I'll take the guy that goes to Grandparents' Day over the guy that takes 10% any day of the week. I don't know about you. I don't think Joe Biden goes to Grandparents' Day. What about that new grandkid that he just started acknowledging? Do you think he's going to go to Grandparents' Day for that kid?
Don't.
Oh, sorry, I won't. We won't go there.
Trump was right, and Joe Biden was wrong.
It's the truth. I don't think Joe Biden should be anywhere near a school, to be fair. Be sniffing hair.
Yeah, that's true.
Sniffing hair and doing all sorts of weird stuff. Is that just me? I wouldn't want him in my kid's school. I think they have a sign on the front door that says, no, thank you.
Nope, we're good.
Yeah, we're full. It is 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We got more on the way, including audio from Joe Biden's meeting with Xi Jinping. And I also have a clip that I want to play from Joe Rogan in his interview with The Rock, which I think is so telling for the Democrat Party. But right now, paying some bills, 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
My name is Angela Gones. I was addicted to pills for probably 15 years. I had lost my kids. I'd lost everything. I finally hit rock bottom. I graduated in December last year. I got her back. Got full custody, everything. I love working here. I get to give back what was given to me. You know, what brought me to this place is most of the people here has been through this, so they can understand more. It helps so many lives. It gives us food, it gives us shelter. That's something that we didn't have when we came here. People here really care.
Protesters calling for a ceasefire say it's a blockade into San Francisco. We've got a new CNN poll showing how far President Trump is ahead of everybody else in New Hampshire. And it's apparently too hot in the kitchen for George Santos. This story and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Are you going to queue up na-na-na-na, hey, goodbye for your newscast?
Not going to do that, Brother Chris.
All right. Well, I can help if you need help. I don't mind. Well,
I appreciate it.
I'm here for you, brother.
I appreciate it.
Ken Weaver, he's the best newsman in the business. Mac Morey producing, you on the phone lines and the super text lines. I honestly appreciate you guys being a part of the conversation. You're the biggest part of the show. We could not do it without you. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 11:25 already. Woo! Where does the time go?
That's crazy.
There has been so much that we haven't even been able to cover this week. I want some days I want 9 hours, and then I realize I shouldn't ask for that because you got to be careful what you wish for. But there's so much to get to. I did want to play this clip of Joe Rogan speaking with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson because it's funny and it's also scary at the same time. Here's the clip.
When I was a kid, you could have a Republican friend. Like, it was no big deal.
Yes.
It's no big deal. Like, oh, Bobby likes George Bush. Who cares? Who gives a f***? You know, you were a supporter of Bill Clinton. He liked George Bush. Nobody cared. Nobody like you. You know, it wasn't like you're a Nazi. Like, I'm a Nazi. I just want lower taxes.
What the f*** are you talking about?
How did I become a Nazi?
He said, I'm not a Nazi. I just want lower taxes. So funny and so true. When did it become so crazy? But you know, he sends that question over to the Rock.
Dude, it's the craziest thing. I have friends who support Trump. I have friends who support Biden. I have friends.
Do you really have friends who support Biden?
I do. Come on. No. Here's what I do. I have friends. Thank you. That's a good check.
Thank you. That's a good check. He doesn't have friends that support Joe Biden. But here's where it kind of gets a little scary. He's like, you have friends that support Joe Biden? He's like, no. Thank you. But this is the part where I think is really telling for, you know, where the Democrat Party is today.
I have friends. Thank you. That's a good check because that's important. This is important context.
They support the Democratic Party.
I have friends who are loyal to the party.
Yes.
I have friends who are loyal to the party. Doesn't that sound like something a communist would say? Like, loyal to the party. That sounds like something out of the CCP. You're standing against the party. That, to me, is one of the wildest things The Rock could have said. They're loyal to the party.
I have friends who are loyal to the party.
Yes. When I was a kid.
I have friends who are loyal to the party.
Well, it's not good for Joe Biden either.
No, it's not a good sign for Joe Biden one bit. And Joe Biden, to his credit, he knows that people are out there and people want his job, including a guy we all know, Gavin Newsom. And Joe Biden acknowledges that Gavin Newsom is after his job. And Joe Biden almost endorsed him yesterday at APEC.
I want to talk about Governor Newsom. I want to thank him. He's been one hell of a governor, man.
First of all, that was like 3 people wooing.
Yeah.
That was like a very weak woo. That was a very weak woo. He's been great.
Talk about Governor Newsom. I want to thank him. He's been one hell of a governor, man. Matter of fact, he could be anything you want. He could have the job I'm looking for.
He can be anything he wants. He can have the job I'm looking for.
Yeah. You've got the job.
He has the job. Maybe he's looking for a different job.
That's it.
The job I'm looking for. Yeah, the job you attain right now.
Yeah.
He's going to go back to driving trucks.
Yeah.
Biden's team watching him say that.
Don't.
Ridiculous.
Joe Biden's LinkedIn page is going to have one of those open to work things on his profile picture pretty soon, Lord willing. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the latest headlines.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And right about lunchtime, we've got a rolling roadblock in Cheatham County. It's slowing things down 24 eastbound from New Hope Road. And then near the airport, you got drop-offs there for the airport pickup and drop-off delays. I-40 eastbound off-ramp to the International Airport. Getting close to Thanksgiving. Right now in California. About 200 protesters calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict have blocked all lanes of San Francisco's Bay Bridge into the city, cutting off everybody from getting in, causing major backups. Rally organizers say this is a blockade. It's part of a surge of civil disobedience around the country. Election 2024, a new CNN poll shows former President Trump holding a significant lead in the New Hampshire GOP primary, while Nikki Haley has moved into second place. 42% say they'd vote for Trump, followed by Haley at 20%. And right now in our nation's capital, a 56-page ethics committee report released this morning says there is substantial evidence federal crimes were committed by New York Republican Congressman George Santos. Now Santos saying he'll continue serving as long as he is allowed, but he won't run for re-election. A vote to expel Santos could come after the Thanksgiving break. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. Two big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. The temperature's up, the temperature's down. If you're flipping from the heat to the AC to the heat, you may find that one or both are on the fritz. If it's not heating like it should, if it's not cooling like it should, you need to call Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling because it's so hard to find somebody you trust with these large home repairs. And make no mistake, your HVAC unit is one of the bigger home repairs that you have to make. Well, if you don't know whether you should repair or replace your HVAC system, call Jeff Eddy with Efficient Heating and Cooling. They'll walk you through every option and scenario so that way you can make an informed decision to repair or replace your system. The other guys, they may not know how to diagnose it, or they may just pressure you to replace the whole system because they make more money that way. That's not Jeff's style. Jeff will help you make an informed decision, and if you do end up needing to replace the unit, Efficient, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I got a tweet sent to me from a listener, friend of ours, Aaron. Said the Bay Bridge is shut down by Palestinian protesters. They're saying Biden will not get away with genocide. Biden will not get away with staying in San Francisco without everyone knowing he is supporting the slaughter in Gaza. Listen, guys, Biden's got a problem on his hands. The economy's in the trash, and his base, the radical left, have completely turned against him. It's entertaining to watch. But they're going to have to replace this guy, don't you think? The way the left is turning on him. It's crazy. Last night, there was a bunch of unhinged pro-Palestinian protesters, and they were clashing with police outside the DNC, and arrests were made. I heard it was one arrest. I think it might have been more. Is it more? How many arrests was it? Do you know how many were arrested outside the DNC?
I can find out.
All right, cool. One of the people that were protesting was on video, and this audio is, I mean, it's completely unhinged, but it is fantastic. This is one of the pro-Palestinian protesters outside of the DNC last night.
We're outside the DNC. We're outside the Democratic Party headquarters because this party claims to be on the side of life and peace and equality.
Right away when she starts, she's off. This party claims to be on the side of life. No, your side is the pro-abortion up until death side. This party claims to be on the side of peace. No. Your side is the pro-war side now. It's pretty apparent when it comes to Ukraine and all the other conflicts we have going on currently. That's your side. Your side is no longer pro-life, pro-peace. It's just, I don't understand how you could say that that's what you're claiming to be. So one of the other things I think is funny is this woman who is unhinged and pro-Palestinian. And again, you know my views. I don't want to be involved in the war on either side. I think we're funding both sides of this war between Israel and Hamas. That being said, this woman is way out of bounds. Way out of bounds. Lady, I hate to break it to you, but you're so passionate and so pro-Palestinian. You would not be allowed to speak in Gaza. You would not be allowed to express your views this way. You would not be allowed to be outside doing this. You wouldn't be allowed to talk. It's not how it works in these Middle Eastern countries.
Anti-war activists down the stairs, shoving peaceful protesters back with their bikes. And because our party that 80% of us want a ceasefire, would rather beat up protesters.
Hold on. Should we continue? One second.
And the guy says, hold on. And then he has to run away because more unhinged Democrats are fighting police. And he's like, you know what? I've got enough audio from you. I'm going to go get these ladies being thrown down the stairs. I mean, the screaming. Ah! It was a chaotic scene. Chaotic. Joe Biden is losing his party. He's lost the base. Completely lost the base.
Got one person arrested?
That's what I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was only one person arrested.
One person arrested and accused of assault on an officer. So,
could you imagine if they were wearing red MAGA hats?
6 officers were treated for injuries as a result of the demonstration.
I mean, they always say like Jan 6 was another 9/11. At this point, I feel like these pro-Palestinian protesters have committed 15 9/11s. That's ridiculous. It's chaotic. And Joe Biden, meanwhile, he's in San Francisco. He's meeting with President Xi, and like I said, they are currently protesting the Bay Bridge. So wild. They have it shut down. But Joe Biden last night, he gave a presser, and it wasn't doing too good. He wasn't.
Now I'd like to be able to take some questions, if I may. And I'm told that Dimitri of the Financial Times has the first question.
Oh, so I'm told that I have to answer some questions, and I'm told who's going to go first. I wonder, why don't they just set these guys up in a line and do single file? Also, Dimitri blew it. His first question's about Ukraine. It's like, dude, Get out of here.
Read the room.
Like he just met with the president of China.
Like why?
The
what?
first question's about Ukraine. God. Congratulations, you blew it. All right, next question.
Next question, sorry, was Bloomberg.
All right, then Bloomberg does their thing. Yep. It was a yawn fest. But then this happened.
I'm embarrassed. I think it's CBS, but I can't remember who is CBS. I'm sorry.
He said,
I'm embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed. That's going to need to be a hotkey.
I'm embarrassed. I think it's...
I'm embarrassed. That's our president. Just doing his thing. How'd it go, Mr. President?
I'm embarrassed.
No. Sounds about right. Now, while he's giving this speech, a lot of people say that Zoomers love Joe Biden, right? People say Joe Biden and Zoomers, they're super tight. On TikTok, where the Zoomers live, if you didn't know that, Gen Z is on TikTok. This speech is being given live. These remarks from Joe Biden after his summit with Xi Jinping. These comments on TikTok are ruthless. Ruthless from the Zoomers. The comments say, does he even know what he's saying? Trump 2024 ever. Trump 2024. It's funny, right? So there'll be comments bashing him and saying we're pro-Trump, and then the other comments are bashing him and saying free Palestine. And there's comments with numerous Palestinian flags. There's comments that say shame, free the hostages, Trump will win now more than ever, free Palestine. He is on the wrong side on both sides, it feels like. Somebody posted, you've become friends with China on TikTok.
China.
A guy on TikTok posted, how the hell is this government letting this man be president? Vote him out. They said, everybody is roasting him. It's either Palestinian flags, make America great again, or you don't make any sense, Mr. President. Somebody wrote, nobody respects you.
Oh my God.
These are the Gen Z Zoomers who are going to be voting for Biden in droves. He's the most popular president in history, 82 million votes. So popular. People love him. We love you, Mr. President.
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, it's embarrassing sometimes.
We're embarrassed for you.
We're embarrassed too. Finally we do get to some actual questions with the president. This is Joe Biden answering some questions.
War in Gaza has killed more than 11,000 Palestinians just over a month and created a humanitarian disaster. Israeli officials have said this war could take months or even years. Have you communicated to Prime Minister Netanyahu any sort of deadline or time frame for how long you are willing to support Israel in this operation? Are you comfortable with the operation going on indefinitely, and is there any deal underway to free hostages? Thank you.
I will say, I understand why you're asking him Israeli-Palestine questions. I get it. But I think this speaks to the fact that Joe Biden doesn't answer any questions from the press. So now they finally have a chance to talk to him. There's a big meeting with China, our greatest adversary, the number 2 country in the world, who, if we went to World War III, is going to be a problem. And they're asking about Israel-Palestine, and it's like the reason that they're asking about that is because you don't do any interviews. You don't give any questions to the press. But he's asked about Israel-Palestine, and he tries to do his best to give an answer.
Yes, no, working backwards, forward. Look, I have...
That's a great answer. It's a great answer.
Yes, no, working backwards, forward. Look.
Working backwards and forward. My answer is yes, no, and it works backwards and forward.
I have been deeply involved in moving on the hostage negotiation. And I I don't want to get ahead of myself here because I don't know what's happened in the last 4 hours, but
Does he really want us to believe that he's getting updates to the minute so often that it's been 4 hours and everything could have changed and he has no idea? He doesn't want to get ahead of himself?
we've gotten great cooperation from the Qataris. I've spoken with them as well a number of times. I think the pause and that the Israelis have agreed to, it's down to, well, I'm getting too much detail. I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to stop.
Did you hear that? Said, well, I'm getting into too much detail. Then he looks over and he says, I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to stop.
I think the pause and that the Israelis have agreed to, it's down to, well, I'm getting too much detail. I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to stop.
You're the boss, dude. Why should Mr. Secretary be telling you to stop? I know, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to stop.
But I am mildly hopeful. I'm mildly hopeful.
Oh, that's a ringing endorsement.
I am mildly hopeful.
I'm mildly hopeful.
Nailed it. I mean, this is who we sent to meet with Xi Jinping of China. Do you think anything actually was accomplished?
I'm mildly hopeful.
Hey, Mr. President, could you reassure Americans a little bit for us?
I'm mildly hopeful.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. You nailed it. All right. What a joke of a leader. Absolute joke. This is our country on Democrats. It's just terrible.
I made it clear to the Israelis that to Bibi and to his war cabinet that I think the only ultimate answer here is a two-state solution. It's real. We got to get to the point where there is an ability to be able to even talk without worrying about whether or not we're just dealing with, they're dealing with Hamas that's going to engage in the same activities they did over the past, on the 7th. So but I can't tell. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you how long it's going to last.
Oh, all right.
Whenever he starts with, let me be clear, or I was clear, I'm like, eh.
Yeah, it's not a good setup. It's not a good setup. You're throwing the oop the wrong way, sir. But are you sure? Can you provide us any actual answers?
So but I can't tell. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't.
Oh, okay.
All right.
That checks out.
So but I can't tell. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you how long it's going to last.
All right. Oh,
sweet.
Thank you. We've accomplished a lot, I guess.
Super dope.
I wonder if we've recounted our memories from the Tibetan Plateau with President Xi Jinping. I'm sure that took up a lot of the conversation. Just him and Xi and a translator. It's 11:49 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy checks in with us next to let you know what you can expect on Murphy's Show coming up here at noon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1156. I'm joined in studio right now by Matt Murphy, who has come in here and he said he's ready to drop bombs of breaking news. So I had young McMorey get the breaking news sounder ready.
This is a breaking news update on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ladies and gentlemen, correspondent Matt Murphy on the scene of breaking news. Actually, I'm just on X. Hello. How are you?
Hello.
So
what's the breaking news?
I've got breaking news. And
That's
I came
what I'm
in
asking.
and I was worried that Hand would have already heard about the breaking news. You know how it goes, where you've got this really juicy bit of audio and you hear Mandis play it at 8:15. You're like, oh.
It happens all the time.
This from X, formerly known as Twitter. I know you OG it, right?
We're a Twitter show.
Okay.
Twitter.
All right, very good. All right. Twitter. Okay, sure. Whatever. Anyway, Snoop Dogg.
It's not, it's not whatever. It's Twitter.
Everybody knows Snoop Dogg. I mean,
D-O-double-G.
Musk want to call it X. I'll call it X. I mean, I'm flexible. I'll roll with the times.
We play some Snoop on this show.
Yeah, well, that was my bumper music was Snoop.
Yeah.
Snoop D-O-double-G. Okay, y'all ready? This from his Twitter post. I'm giving up smoke.
What?
Oh, no.
What?
Oh, no.
No.
Now,
are we? Hold on. Is he just moving on to edibles?
Well, remember when Willie did that?
Yeah.
This is truth. Willie announced that he was no longer smoking marijuana and then had to come back and say, hey, guys, I'm doing a different version of marijuana because of my lungs. I'm not giving up pot or THC. After much consideration and conversation with my family, I've decided to give up smoke. Please respect my privacy at this time.
No, I don't believe this.
Yeah, I'm calling.
Is that
BS.
real? Let me see that. Is that real?
This is real.
Wow.
It's the real deal.
Whoa.
Look, he's got his picture there, and he's got a prayerful.
Wow. I didn't believe you
until you saw that.
Now I've seen that it's real, and you know what? Oh, hold on. I didn't have my audio ready. That ruined the joke.
I'm embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed.
I retweeted it, and I said big if true.
Big if true.
Big if true. I love the big if true.
True if big.
Yeah, big if true. So Snoop, that'll lead the program today.
That's the lead.
That might be the whole thing. It might be all we do.
Don't bury the lead.
No, go right in there.
I love it. All right. Anything else happening on the show?
Nah.
No?
Guest free. We're guest free on a Thursday because we've been guest heavy the last couple of days. Guest free on this Thursday. I'm excited to give my take on Chi being in the United States.
You're not going to have any other congressmen on that like to fist fight or anything like that?
No fist fights, no leftist, no former, entertainment greats. Nobody. Just me. That's it.